Did we disconnect? It said that we connected, or I did see a notification. Y'all talk to me. Talk to me. Did they disconnect me? It says stop streaming, so y'all let me know if we back. Y'all let me know we back. Let me type in the chat. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. We back. All right, cool. We in there. So once you have your UFO actually in your viewfinder, you should be good to go and use your AWSD to move it around, move it back, move it closer, move it to the left or to the right. Okay? Or you can actually just click up in there to get it in the right space and then just use your W key to get closer. All right? Cool, cool, cool. With that being said, let's get back to it.
The F key to frame it up and we can zoom in on that UFO. Now, if I were to open it up, we can see here that we have the UFO group. It's a null object, a simple locator inside here. Then inside that, we have the actual geometry, the actual meshes for the glass, the detail of the UFO, the base, and the legs. Incidentally, if we open up the assets here, you'll see we also have materials for each of those and a few textures as well. Okay, so now that we have these multiple pieces of geometry arranged in...
Hold on, I was moving some around in my space. I want to make sure I caught what he said there. I don't want to miss that.
Over the plane tracker, remembering when my UFO selected, I can press the F key to frame it up and we can zoom in on that UFO. Now, if I were to open it up, we can see here that we have the UFO group. It's a null object, a simple locator inside here. Then inside that, we have the actual geometry, the actual meshes for the glass, the detail of the UFO, the base, and the legs. Incidentally, if we open up the assets here, you'll see we also have materials for each of those and a few textures as well. Okay, so now that we have these I'm
gonna just make this quick, but these are the small details that do make a huge difference, y'all. So this is big. All right, on the left hand side, I want to start doing this a little bit more too. Actually just zooming it in for you guys like this. So on the left hand side, right, these little toggles, right, these little arrows are very important, right? They are what allows you to see the child parent relationship. Okay, so when you hit that arrow, you're gonna see UFO group, and then you're gonna want to hit that one more time, and now you're gonna actually see additional assets that are in this space. So when you hit glass, all right, let me scoot it over to the far right side real quick. Now you can see in the properties tab, 4 glass is actually popped up. So if I were to go in to the material, double click that, now we actually have the material for here. Let me get y'all so the full thing now. Okay. Now that I have the material on the right, my UFO not in the right space. All right. So Todd, tell me more, because once you click the video button and on the far left and you change it from one of the people to one of the blank spaces, then it should have went on ahead and put the UFO in the white space. If you're saying it's not like on the screen yet, then you need to pull your UFO from the assets area. You need to pull it up and actually put it in like onto plane tracker, so that when plane tracker pops up, there's a blue rectangle around it. Put the UFO on top of the plane tracker. Okay, then it's going to be parented. Then you should be able to see everything from there. All right.
Then we mess up our complicated models. If you select them straight from the scene here, straight from the viewport, you'll notice we're selecting if we want to move all of these things at the same time, it's always best to select that root node for it straight there inside the scene hierarchy, and we can then modify them all together. If you've managed to mess your scene up like this, there are 2 ways to fix it. First of all,
wait, did I disconnect? Talk to me, y'all. Cause I'm trying to watch it on my phone as well, just so I know. Let me close my YouTube and come back. Just so I know. Okay, yeah, it's good. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe my phone was tweaking. I don't know, y'all. They trying to slow it down today, but we in the game. All right, we in the game. We in the game.
Is you'll notice if we select an object, we can go over into its properties in the property inspector here. And if our model is configured correctly, and they're not always, we should be able to set it back to how it is by putting position 0, 0, 0. In scale, it's typically set to 1, 1, 1, and rotation to 0, 0, 0 again. But in this case, we've messed up a lot of our little bits of geometry. You can see here with the glass geo, I can move that back to where it's meant to be by putting 0, 0, 0 in there. But I may have tied myself in knots, and it may be a little bit difficult to come back from here. So if so, I can just select my UFO and delete it, and then reinstantiate it from the assets panel. And it's going to come back in again with all those same position, rotation, and scale values that it originally had, and reset itself. So what we'd like to look at now is over in the properties inspector, we have our controls where we can dial in explicit values if we like. So we know that the green axis here is the Y axis, so X, Y, Z. So it's this middle one just here. If I want to rotate my UFO around, I can just enter explicit values straight in here. So I could rotate it by 30 degrees on that Y axis, and it's going to spin around. Similarly, I may feel that this UFO is maybe a little bit too small in my scene, so I might want to change its size up to 1.5, 1.5, 1.5, and make it a bit bigger. But what we can also do is control all of these values using visual programming logic, which enables us to do really cool things like change these values over time. So if I want to make the UFO look like it's floating in the air, I can do that using the patch editor.
All right, we should be pretty smooth. Dang, is it really? How about now? I mean, it seemed like it's playing pretty straight now. So maybe that message was from a little while ago, but I'm trying to watch it at the same time. So I know if it ever does start tripping again. But at this point, guys, we should be all on the pretty much the same page. The UFO is in. He was just showing us, if you ever mess it up, you could just bring your asset back in and kind of start all over. On the far right hand side, all right, on the far right hand side, this is where, if I have my UFO selected, right, you're going to have the properties for transformation. So that's going to be position, scale, and rotation at a minimum. He said we're also going to go ahead and go into our patch editor to go ahead, and this is the first time that like the coding part is kind of brought into the equation, and their coding is really like a drag, connect dots type of thing instead of actually typing in code. So, all right, let's go ahead and get it to it. All right, bet. We bet. All right, cool. Let's do it. Let's get back to it.
To start exploring the patch editor and visual programming logic, we're going to begin by making the UFO float up and down the patch editor. So as I hover over here with the position attribute, you can see if I click on it with the root level of my UFO selected over on the position input port, I can click here and a whole bunch of things suddenly happen. One, the position name here has gone yellow, and you can see the boxes that we could previously click on to hit. We can't edit them anymore because they're being controlled by the patch editor. That's what it's telling us there. We've had the patch editor pop open. That's right, it's been hiding here all along in plain sight. If we want to close the patch editor again, we've got the workspace editor just here, and we can close it and bring it open again. And we've also had this third thing created here, which is, it's called a consumer patch. This is the consumer patch for the UFO 3D position. This is basically a mirror, a reflection of these values that we see here. And as we're building our visual programming logic inside the patch editor, anything we connect into here is going to drive that 3D position of the UFO, and those values will be reflected over here. And so our consumer patch is here. Inside the patch editor, we've been talking about visual programming, but we're not doing classic programming in the sense that we're typing out lines of code and crazy punctuation. to try and make sense of, building some logic. Instead, we visualize each of those operations that we're doing inside a script as blocks of logic, little patches of.
So I'm gonna just say this real quick. I don't know if y'all remember, when I wrote up these notes, I said on day 0 that this is what I did, and I suggested for everybody to consider it, but to go ahead and list 3 editors that I would that I enjoy, that I would like to recreate, and one of them I said was the 3D DH logo. So what's funny about that day 1's episode, I actually said that I wanted to create it and have it big when you're far away from it, and then as you get closer it gets smaller. And it seems like, based on what he said already, that this is about to start like leading us into that direction, because like you said, it's the coding portion. You can't change it manually in the transformations anymore, so now you're gonna have to code the size. So now I'm thinking, like, if you put time on it, you can, or location or distance, like there may be ways that we can patch that together. So just seems like we're moving in that direction. So that's it. Let me come back today. Cool.
Of logic inside the patch editor that we can connect together. So some patches will generate signals, some other patches.
I don't know why I keep going out, but I see that it said it this time, so I'm gonna wait. I wonder why it's disconnecting though. Like the Wi-Fi is strong. Test. Test. That's so weird. Test. I'm gonna wait until I can get clear audio on mine. Alright, bet. I don't know why, like, my phone be acting like it ain't playing it right just on my playback. Alright, let's go.
Play with. And here we're already on animation as a category, and the patches that we have available to us within the animation category, we can see one here called transition. We've also got a few others in here you can definitely explore. For example, face landmarks. Do we want to know where the position of maybe the eyelid is so we can put some eyelashes on? Or do we want to read how long the effect has been playing for? Do we want to add some user interface elements for pickers and sliders and all sorts of interaction bits and pieces like screen tap and pinch? But we're interested right now in transition between a higher position and a lower position. So we'll go into the animation category, choose a transition patch. It gives us a bit more information about it, and we can see a preview of what this patch is going to look like just here. So we have the patch inputs, has a progress, the animation's progress. 0 is the start, 1 is complete. We have start, the starting state, end, the end state, and curve, the pace of the animation, how we're pacing between the start and the end. So let's click add patch, and we can see our patch just here, where we can set up our transition, and we have an output port where it's outputting a value, and we can see XYZ here. So what we can do is wire our output port from here through to the UFO, and 1, and so I need to zoom out to see it. There it is. We can see it's moved up and across 1 in X and across 1 in Z.
Hold on. Every time I get this little message, bro, I'm a pause for a moment just to make sure that nobody's missing anything. So let me close my YouTube, bring it back up, just to make sure that we're good on audio. Test. Yeah, I got to do. I really don't know what it could be though. All right, cool. We in there. This is good though. We're getting into the patch editor.
So if it's one in X and across one in signal, this.
Wow. Test test. I don't know why I keep dropping and coming back like that, y'all. My apologies.
Test test. This is how far we are from the animation from the start to the end. So if I'm on 0, we're looking at the start values. If I change this progress value to 1, we've now moved the UFO position to 1, 1, 1. And so I need to zoom out to see it. There it is. We can see it's moved up and across 1 in X and across 1 in Z, which isn't right. We want it to just move straight up and down. So where we have our end values here of 1, 1, 1, let's change them instead to 0, 1, 0, so it just goes straight up and down. Now it's gone a little bit high. When we created the plane tracker, you can see the plane tracker actual manipulator, the handle for it just here. When our device recognizes the ground, it's this little plane here, this little rectangle that it's going to set to be that ground level. So if I zoom in here, we can see, viewing it from the side, it's actually a little bit above where the grid is, but we want our UFO to be hovering at the start a little bit above the ground, so not with its feet on the ground, but up above. So let's put our progress back to 0, where we can see the start position. Where we have our start here on 0, 0, 0, I'd rather my UFO start a little bit above the ground. So let's type in 0.1. And if I go back to the end position with my progress at 1, we can see it's gone like really high, which might be a bit confusing for the users. We can see here in the simulator, it's gone out of the simulator view. So it might get a bit distracting. In the end position here, I'm going to type in 0.3. So we're now going to transition between, if I go to my progress signal 0, 0.1 high, and if I change my progress to 1, we can see we're just going up and see we're just going up a little bit. So we're just going to levitate up and down. It's going to be really cute. Okay, so now we know we've got our transition in there controlling the position of the UFO, but we want it to turn into some looping animation. We want it to play down in animation, loop back to the start again, and keep going. And strangely enough, we have a patch called loop animation. So I'm going to type in loop at the top, and it's going to filter out all of those patches for me so I can quickly just find that loop animation and choose add patch. Now you'll notice here with our loop animation patch, it has an output port called progress. And we have here on the transition, the progress input port, which controls the range that we're currently at, the position we are between start and end. If I put in 0.5 in my progress, we can see now the UFO 3D position is actually 0.2, which is halfway between these two. And if we hover over, if we click on the output port.
Hold on. I think I missed that part. Let me make sure I catch that.
The progress input port, which controls the, now you'll notice here with our loop animation patch, it has an output port called progress. And we have here on the transition, the progress input port, which controls the range that we're currently at, the position we are between start and end. If I put in 0.5 in my progress, we can see now the UFO 3D position is actually point.
Oh, he had. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, he hadn't connected it yet. I connected mine and it actually started doing the levitation, so that's why I got hype. All right, I'm gonna let him play through, and then I'm gonna come on and I'm gonna walk back through everything. But I just want to make sure as he's going through, I'm catching the concept for sure.
2, which is halfway between these two. And if we hover over, if we click on the output port, the progress input port, which controls the range that we're currently at, the position we are between start and end. If I put in 0.5 in my progress, we can see now the UFO 3D position is actually 0.2, which is halfway between these two. And if we hover over, if we click on the output port for the loop animation, you can see this loop animation patch is generating a signal that's changing over time. It's going from 0 up to 1 and then resetting itself back to 0. And so if I connect my progress signal from here to the transition patch, there we go. We've now got some animation happening in the scene. Doesn't look quite. Loop animation patch. We have an option here to mirror the loop animation, and you'll see the effect here. It's now going from 0 to 1 and then playing back down to 0 again, rather than immediately snapping to it. We then also have in the transition patch the curve, if you remember the pace of transition from the start to the end. At the moment, the UFO looks like it's just bouncing in a very linear curve between 2 points. We can play with this curve attribute here. If we click on the drop down, we've then got lots of different options for how we're transitioning from the start to the end. For example, you could look at something like elastic, in, out, that makes it look like it's snapping to that end position. But for the UFO, something that's going to look quite nice is a quadratic curve in and out. So a quadratic interpretation of that progress signal onto the start and the end position values. And there we have a really nice floating animation that we've managed to create ourselves just using these patches. Super, super cool. We'll further explore with animation. We have the input connections here made to rotation. So let's just drag these three out of the way here. And you can see we have a really similar setup, a loop animation going into a transition patch and into the UFO 3D rotation consumer patch. But it's looking a bit wacky in that it's spinning really fast. It's a bit too fast to be sympathetic to the pace of the float going up and down. So in this case, our loop animation patch has this duration attribute, and it's currently set to 1, which means it's taking 1 second to go from 0 and up to 1. So if I type in maybe 4 in this loop animation duration for the 3D rotation, I've now got a nice, slow, sympathetic rotation on the UFO, which is really cool. So you've seen there are loads of different patches available to you that you can get into playing around with a lot of intricate detail, creating really big, really complex stuff by stringing all these patches together.
This is awesome. Let's get into it. So basically we've been adding some animation to our design. Okay. We went on ahead and, got our environment together, brought in the UFO. I kindly went in and changed mine to red a little bit, so now let me move back. Let me get up, and back, left, back. All right, back. So now it's fully in frame. Memorizing your X, Y, and Z, knowing that that's your horizontal, your vertical, and your depth, that's going to help you be able to manipulate this. So when you're seeing those 3 columns and we're trying to make it go up and down, remember that's your vertical. That's your second one. That's your G. That's your Y, right? All of those things mean the same thing. Okay, so we wanted it to go up and down. So if you look at, let's see, the one where we have the manipulation of, hold on, I wanted to see, these aren't labeled anyway. I don't really like that. Like, how would I know which one of these is which? Oh, okay. The yellow part actually has it. So it says 3D position here, and then it says 3D rotation here. Cool. So my 3D position, the position, we want the position moving up and down. So on our transition, let me make this really big on my patch editor so that we can really see what I'm getting at. Hold on. Reset this thing. Fit the screen, and then I'll zoom in. Okay. I want you guys to really be able to see this pretty clear. All right, cool. So, we're gonna be looking at the bottom one specific. This one is our 3D position. So we know that we want the positioning moving up and down vertically, correct? So what that means is on our transition, we wanted our stop here. Let me just stop it for a minute. Let me stop the whole thing. Okay. So we wanted our, and let me disconnect this. Okay. So we wanted for our object to move up and down, which means on our progress, let me change it to 0 first. This is going to be where it starts, okay? The progress is literally 0 to 1, but there's technically a range, right? 0 is, you know, the false state, the non-going. 1 is the true state, and then you have a range within that. So if I have it on 0, I'm saying, okay, what do I want the settings to be under the conditions, right? And then I can say, okay, what do I want the conditions to be under the 1 conditions, all right? Or that's going to actually show me what it is. So under my start, I want it to start my 0 condition. I want it to be at 0.1. Earlier, we had it at 0, which was actually on the ground. So we moved it up just a little bit. All right, we moved it up to 0.1. The end position, we want to be 0.3. So it's going to move up to 0.3 at its highest position. Okay, so that's our start position. Excuse me, our start. So it's technically right. It's start position. And then the higher is our end position. So if you look at the actual UFO, let me bring it back into frame fully. Okay. So now if you look at the UFO, I'm going to change the progress to 1. You're going to see the UFO go up. If I change the progress back to like it was okay, we didn't do it for the positioning because it felt like this was a good speed. But let's say we did want to slow it down. If I put this on 3, if I change my duration on the patch editor for position, it's going to basically slow down to this speed that you can see right here. It's dramatically slower. If I wanted it sped up, I can go to 0.5%. And now that's going to be twice as fast as it was originally. So I'm going to switch it back to 0.1, which kind of gave it that natural glide up and down. The other thing that we did was we selected the mirrored button under the loop animation. What did that do? That meant that, okay, we had the start to finish, right? We had start at 0.1, finish at 0.3. Start at 0.1, finish at 0.3. So that's what we're seeing happen. What does mirrored mean? It says mirror that exact same action. So then once it goes from true to false, flip that. Now we want true to be at 0.3 and false to be at 0.1. So it's going to do the same action in the reverse way. So we had our duration was still at 1. Our mirror is going to cause it to do the back and forth. Okay. The other thing that we did was, on the curve, all right, there's a curve feature, and I can't wait to get through all of these, all right, just so I can really see what they're doing, all right, but we use the quadratic in and out. So it's kind of giving like a speed to it, and then a slowdown. Speed, slow down. It slows down once it gets back to like each point. When we had it on linear, you could see that it was just moving at a constant pace to each end. Quadratic in and out definitely gives it the UFO vibe. All right. So hopefully that catches everybody up. Excuse me. Then we brought in the rotation one. To do the rotation, all we did was in the top right-hand corner, we selected the magic wand button. All right. There's a magic wand, literally the top furthest right. Excuse me. You have to have your UFO selected in order for this to pop up, in order for this to work. So select your UFO on your assets all the way to the left on your scene. And then in the top right-hand corner, compress the wand. And then we're going to come down to animate. All right. Once you go to animate, you basically just put spin. And then that's automatically going to drop the whole patch lineup in your patch editor. Mine's when it dropped it in there is a little Aki from positioning. So I just grabbed it, moved it around a little bit. Okay. From there, we slowed it down from the duration to 4. And here, let me put it back on 1 so y'all can see what it looked like. 1, So now we said we want the duration to take 4 seconds for a full cycle. Boom. In the game. This is beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it.
We'll include a link to some more information about getting started with patches, but it can get very complicated very quickly. So we'll leave it here for now. And as we bring this section to a close, working with the plane tracker to create world objects, there are 2 things that I'd like you to remember. First of all, when we move into publishing, it can be a little bit tricky to get a really good representation of what our world effect is. As we'll see in the next section, we can record a demo video for our published effects straight here inside Spark, but for world effects like this, it's really, really handy to use the testing link to push to your device, record your world effect on your device as a demo video, save that, send it to yourself, and keep that ready for the publishing process where we can manually either replace or add a demo video to the publish as we're going through the form on the Spark AR Hub. So that's point 1. Point 2 is you should definitely start exploring the templates from here. There's a world object template, which has some really great instructions built into it to create sophisticated world effects using a plane tracker that make it really easy to add some extra complication to it that make your effect more powerful. What I'm mostly talking about here is you'll see in the simulator here, there's a little hamburger menu top right.
It works.
And we can choose to simulate touch.
That's crazy.
Now, when our plane tracker runs and it finds the ground, it's just going to put the UFO straight over the top of whatever ground it found. But if I click around, there's no way simulating touch inside my simulator window here to move that UFO. The template for world objects has logic built into it that enable you to tap around in that simulator to replace that UFO wherever you like it, and also to use pinch gestures to scale it up and down and rotate it around, which makes your plane tracking effects much more user-friendly. So it gives you a bit of insight into how those templates can help you get started much more quickly and take those shortcuts to more sophisticated effects. And with that, we've finished our plane tracking section. Let's move into publishing.
Yo, it just cooked up. I ain't gonna lie. My dog just cooked up, man. That was a great one. I feel good. Like, here, let me turn that back on. But look, check this out, man. Check it out. I mean, we really just went over the review, but I was able to actually send it to my phone, and it works like a beauty. It works perfectly. All right. So hopefully between, what he said and what I was able to convey as well, there was a good streamline between the two. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, or you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put my Telegram in the bios to these, because I'm dropping like the filter and stuff like that from a day to day, and just being able to keep up outside of just the live streams. But with that being said, man, I genuinely appreciate everybody. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them on these videos, because I'm definitely looking forward to just giving as much value and helping bring the perspective all together as much as possible. All right. So with that being said, man, you guys enjoy the rest of your night. We conclude day 4 today, and we'll be back tomorrow for day 5, man. We're coming up on a whole week, ladies and gentlemen. So go ahead, review any notes or anything that you have, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on the very next day, man. Enjoy.